The ever-turning wheel of capitalism never rests, and companies are always creating new products to sell to consumers while looking for new ways to advertise those products. Brand names will be slapped onto billboards, on the sides of buses, on the backs of cereal boxes, and of course, even on video games. The practice of making video games based on a licensed property goes back decades, and usually there's at least a modicum of sense at the heart of it. But it seems that some marketing teams, even if they understand the what and how of making a game, fail to grasp the concept of why to make a game. We've talked about a few of these vexing virtual advertisements before, but it turns out there's more than enough for a second helping. Some are good, some are bad, but all of them left us scratching our heads and asking, wait, they made a video game out of that? I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 more of the weirdest licensed video games. Number 10. Akira Psycho Ball. The 1988 anime movie Akira revolutionized the landscape of science fiction filmmaking when it was released to critical acclaim. The video games based on the movie, not so much. There have been several Akira games over the years, including an adventure game for the Famicom and a side-scrolling action platformer for the Amiga. Easily the weirdest of the bunch, however, is Akira Psycho Ball, a PlayStation 2 entry that adapts the story of Akira into the medium of pinball machines. The game's story mode takes players through a series of pinball tables based on iconic moments and locations from the original work, with the reward for clearing a stage being a few brief clips from the movie. There's clearly an effort being made with Psycho Ball and its unique gimmick of transforming tables, but pinball is not exactly the most dynamic format for storytelling. There's only so much you can do with flippers and bumpers, after all. It's not the worst tie-in game ever made, and it's not even the worst pinball game ever made. In fact, it's not even the worst pinball tie-in game ever made. Congratulations, Austin Powers Pinball, for winning that one. But it certainly is the kind of game that makes us wonder who thought that this would be a good idea. It shouldn't take a psychic to see that these two things do not go together. Number 9. Warpath Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park may be one of the greatest movies ever made, but its track record when it comes to video games is far less stellar. But you know what the problem is with most of those games? They're about the human characters in Jurassic Park when they should just be about the dinosaurs. Fighting games were all the rage in the 90s, and far be it from the makers of any licensed game to avoid cashing in on a trend. Warpath Jurassic Park then features a playable roster of 14 different dinosaurs, from the mighty T-Rex to the humble Ankylosaurus, who slug it out in a series of arenas based on locales from the movie and its sequel. Some of the battlefields even include stage hazards or small animals the dinos can snack on to restore their health. Warpath is a far cry from the flashy fighting games of today though, as there are no over-the-top super moves or deep mechanics to be mastered here. Instead, each dino relies on an arsenal of kicks, bites, and claw swipes to best their opponent. Coupled with bad AI and janky hit detection, fights often end up feeling a bit too sloppy to be much fun. It's no wonder then that the idea of any more Jurassic Park fighting games was quietly allowed to go extinct. Number 8. Chex Quest. If there's any product out there that's mastered the art of advertising itself to its target audience, it's breakfast cereals, what with their cartoonish mascots, their promises of free toys inside the box, and in some cases, their officially licensed mods of the classic first-person shooter, Doom. Wait, what? Chex Quest was an attempt to market the Chex brand of cereal and snack foods through the power of video games. It's a total conversion mod of Doom in which you, taking the role of the heroic Chex warrior, must battle against an evil group of aliens to ensure the survival of the Chex race. The game was distributed as a cereal box toy, where it quickly caught on with kids and became a beloved bit of nostalgia. Chex Quest continues to enjoy widespread popularity to this day, and has been the recipient of numerous fan-made mods and add-ons. films. It would even receive 2 sequels, one of which was produced by the former developers of the original purely as a gesture of fan service. In 2018, General Mills, the company that owns the Chex brand, approved the release of an HD remake of Chex Quest for Steam and Switch. I guess you could say this is a game that checks all of the boxes. Number 7. Star Wars Chess. Across more than 4 decades of existence, Star Wars video games have dabbled in just about every genre known to man. The franchise has had fighting games, racing games, car combat games, and whatever the heck Kinect Star Wars was supposed to be. So in a way, the existence of something like Star Wars Chess shouldn't be that surprising, but that doesn't mean it isn't a bit of an oddball. What you see is what you get with this game. It's chess, but with classic Star Wars characters standing in for the traditional pieces. There are no fancy flourishes or special rules either, as the game simply plays the same way that chess has played for thousands of years. What we can say is noteworthy about the game, though, are the animations that play whenever a piece is taken, showing your favourite characters beating, blasting, and bludgeoning each other to death in scenes more akin to Mortal Kombat than Star Wars. It's a bit like that scene in the first movie where they played the Jurassic, the holographic chess in which claymation monsters beat each other up, which just begs the question, why didn't they simply make a game out of that instead? Number 6. Revolution X. Being in a world-famous rock band seems like it would be non-stop fun and parties, but if video games are to be believed, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be, let's be real, it seems to be one of the most dangerous professions out there. If you're not getting abducted by aliens like the band Journey, then you're being taken hostage by anti-rock music terrorists. Revolution X is an on-rail shooter game in which players must blast their way through waves of enemies on a take-no-prisoners mission to rescue the American rock band Aerosmith from the clutches of the New Order Nation, a terrorist organization whose main goal seems to be stopping people from partying. First released in arcades, Revolution X was originally planned to be a Jurassic Park game, but when that license fell through, the developers went to the next closest thing, which apparently was rock music. On your mission through deserts, ancient temples, and chemical plants, you'll have to track down each missing band member to reunite them at the end. That is, if you want the true ending, of course. While it did well in arcades, the game flopped on consoles, and a planned sequel focused on the rap group Public Enemy was cancelled. Sometimes the show doesn't always have to go on. Number 5. Gotham City Imposters. You know what's a surefire recipe for success when it comes to licensed games? Putting a beloved, iconic character front and center. You know what's maybe not a recipe for success? Not including the characters your game is based on in the game itself. Gotham City Imposters was a team-based online competitive shooter where 2 opposing squads, one made up of vigilantes inspired by Batman and the other being a gang of ne'er-do-wells who've taken up the mantle of the Joker, fight for control of Gotham City. The game placed emphasis on character customization, as players were free to modify their avatar's body types, outfits, and gear with numerous options. What the game didn't include, though, was Batman. All the playable characters featured in Imposters are nameless goons who mimic the aesthetics of famous characters, as opposed to being actual recognizable superheroes, something that unfortunately cost the game a lot of credibility with many potential players. Those who did play the game had mostly kind things to say about its fun and frenetic gameplay and endearing style, but with a minuscule player base, even after going free to play, support for Gotham City Imposters was shut down after only 2 years. Number 4. Fight Club. Some movies seem to lend themselves perfectly to certain types of video game adaptation. A racing game based on a movie about cars? Oh, perfection! A fighting game based on a movie about a fight club? A fantastic idea! If you've never actually watched the movie, that is. For the uninitiated, Fight Club the film is a psychological thriller based on a novel that analyzes and deconstructs many aspects of toxic masculinity in modern society. Fight Club the video game is basically a bootleg of Tekken with ideas ripped from every other fighting game that was popular in the early 2000s. It places emphasis on violence and brutality, with lots of blood, broken bones, and the option to retain injuries between fights if you want to make things more realistic or just more difficult. Also, the roster in Fight Club is eclectic to say the least. The game starts with 12 characters pulled from the movie and the book, some of whom are even portrayed by their actual actors, but the unlockable characters include Fred Durst, lead singer of the band Limp Bizkit, and former United States President Abraham Lincoln. There is a bit of comedy potential to be found in this game, but on the whole, there's not actually that much about Fight Club that's worth talking about. Number 3. Home Improvement Power Tool Pursuit. There was a time when it seemed that every movie and TV show had to have a video game tie-in, and I mean every movie and TV show. Every action movie, every sci-fi movie, every comedy movie, and of course, every TV sitcom. Home Improvement Power Tool Pursuit is an adaptation of the TV show about a TV show about DIY handyman projects and power tools. While filming, main character Tim finds out his tools have been stolen, and he must chase the thief through the studio across numerous different film sets to get them back. At least the game's story would have us believe they're just film sets, but anyone playing the game would just as easily believe that this suburban dad is actually traveling across time and dimensions in his quest for power tools. In each level, Tim is beset by all manner of enemies, from ghosts to space aliens and everything in between. Not to be daunted, he battles through them with an arsenal of weapons that includes dynamite, a blowtorch, and even a bloody chainsaw. Not a bloody chainsaw, just a flippin' chainsaw. Now I know what you're thinking, this hardly seems like proper tool safety, but hey, we're not the ones with the TV show, so what do we know? The best part of the game though, the instruction manual is almost entirely blocked out by a sticker that reads, "Real men don't need instructions." Absolute hilarity. And slightly sexist. Number 2. The Bachelor, the video game. You'd think game shows would lend themselves fairly well to video game adaptations. I mean, the word game is in the name after all. Whether they're games of skill or just pure chance, they can at least offer a quick bit of fun. But how do you adapt a show that has no actual game to it at all? Such is the case with The Bachelor, part of the utter deluge of cheap licensed cash grabs that swamped the Nintendo DS and Wii. Based on the reality show of the same name, The Bachelor casts the player as one of the many eligible singles, all vying for the affections of the same man or woman in an elimination-style format. The show itself is built around the various dating activities the titular bachelor engages in with their suitors, but since dating is a bit harder to adapt to video games than something like a big spinning wheel, the Bachelor game is instead a bare-bones minigame collection that has you earning enough love points to move in on the competition until you eventually find true love with your digital soulmate. It's a shallow experience that seems to completely miss the show's target audience, and somehow feels even more hollow than winning fake money in the Jeopardy video game. And number 1, M&ms, The Lost Formulas. It's far from uncommon for cheap licensed games to simply copycat what more popular games have already done better. After all, if Mario can do it, why can't Chester Cheetah do it and sell cheesy corn snacks to impressionable young children at the same time? The M&ms company seemed to have the same thought, though rather than a portly Italian plumber, they chose to emulate a certain Australian marsupial. M&ms The Lost Formulas is a very straightforward Crash Bandicoot clone that puts the anthropomorphized chocolate mascots through a series of long corridor-like platforming levels, with the end goal of liberating the M&ms factory from the mini M&ms and recovering the M&ms formulas that have been lost in the process. I am now officially tired of saying the word M&ms. The Lost Formulas isn't entirely without new ideas, however, as each section of the game is split into 2 stages. One that's a pure platforming challenge, and one that requires the player to solve maths problems in order to progress. I have no idea why anybody would think an M&ms platformer also needed to be an edutainment game, but this is the timeline we're living in, I'm afraid.